sincere gratitude to each and everyone present here. We are delighted to invite you to our fourth session on climate resilient livelihoods for women, promoting sustainable economic opportunities, organized by IEEE Site AG and SSC. Now, without any further ado, let me invite Dia MD for the welcome address.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Dia, volunteer of IEEE SB and SSE. I'm extremely proud to welcome each and every one of you to this session on climate resilient livelihood for women promoting sustainable economic opportunities, organized by IEEE Site AG and SSE in association with IEEE Site SB and SSE as a part of SUSTAINTIA Session 4, Empowering Communities for a Sustainable Future. So, first of all, I would like to invite the speaker of today's session, Rushali Thakkar, Vice Chair of IEEE Women in Engineering Bombay session. Now, let me invite each and every participant to this session and wishing a fruitful session ahead.
Yeah, good evening
Thank you,
all.
Dia.
Thank you.
Now, let me hand over the platform to Rushali ma'am to delve into the session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leah and Dia, for the warm welcome and the introduction. It's a nice crowd today. So, looking at the number of the participants, it's very, I can see the enthusiasm in all the participants who have joined today. So, it's really uh, grateful to see all of you present here, and I hope I will be able to deliver the maximum which is best possible to you. Right? I will share my screen. Just one question before this. May I know you are all from first year, second year, and final year students? Hello.
And there are first year, second years, and third years too.
Okay, okay, fine. And which branch? It's mixed crowd?
It's mixed crowd, ma'am.
Okay, okay, fine. Thank you. Okay. I will share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yeah. By chance, in between, if I'm not able, please let me know. Okay. Because now I will be in the presentation mode, so I won't be able to see whether I'm connected or not. So just let me know if I am online. Okay. So today here we are to just get a brief understanding of how uh, we will be able to promote sustainable economic opportunities with respect to the climate resilient livelihoods for women. So I will not be specifically because now we are having a mixed crowd. It will be men and women. So it's not I will be focusing, but we will be majorly we will be seeing that how climate resilient livelihoods for women, how the impact is there. What are the different solutions or what are the different opportunities which are coming on the way for women that we will be discussing in our today's session. So I hope you all know about the term resilient and sustainable. That is very important because when we come across these slides, if you don't know what do you mean by resilient, what do you don't know what is mean by sustainable, it will be difficult for you to understand what I am talking about, right? So the first I would like to give the introduction, then about the climate change and the gender, and how specifically it is impacting on women and girls. Then we will see the need for climate resilient practices, the solutions, opportunities, and one or two case studies we will be seeing. So this is the flow of the presentation, which will go like. Now, I have put over here the link which I'll be sharing with you all. So see, there are so much material or so much knowledge is available already, and you must be aware of what exactly is the climate change, right? So just to give a brief introduction, what is climate change? I can say that climate change is referring to the long-term shifts in temperature, right? And due to there are different weather patterns. Such shifts are natural, right? Due to the changes in the sun's activity or large volcanic eruptions. But you can see that since 1800s, these human activities have been the main driver of the climate change. So it is not it happened all of a sudden, this climate change. Why everyone is talking about this climate change? right? Because there are some causes, there are effects, and there are some impacts on our daily day-to-day life. Though we may not be able to understand it that okay, there is a change, but if you go to the rural areas, it is very difficult, and how we'll see in the upcoming slides how this is impacting the livelihood of the in the rural areas and all, and how IEEE and how we as an individual will be able to help them. See, it is not possible to get back all these things, but we will be able to reduce these effects, or will be able to resolve these consequences or those impacts which are happening. So from since 1800, we are seeing this human activities have been made the main driver of this climate change, and this is basically due to the burning of fossil fuels like coals, oils, and gases. I believe this you must be knowing about this. So burning fuels. Now you must have also heard about this green gas emissions (GHG). You know that the carbon footprints and also you must be aware of this. There is a carbon footprint calculator where you are able to find out how much carbon emissions you are able to do, and how you will be able to reduce it, right? So there is a you have an online calculator where you will be able to understand and how do you reduce those carbon gas emissions. That you will be able to understand with the help of that calculator. You will be able to understand how much exactly your greenhouse gas emissions are emitted and how are you going to reduce it. So these greenhouse emission act like a blanket which is wrapped around the earth, trapping down the sun's heat and raising temperatures. So the main greenhouse gas emissions that are causing this climate change include carbon dioxide and methane, right? So these come from using the gasoline for driving a car, or coal for heating a building. For example, if you're clearing the land and cutting down the forest, they also release this carbon dioxide. So these are all some of the effects because of which this climate change is happening, right? So moving ahead, we will see, if you see the daily statistics, this daily global mean surface air temperature is increasing. See this is the latest which I have obtained from the site axios.com. So here you can see that how you can see the red color, this thing, how the temperature, surface area air temperature is rising, right? So this is the concern where you need to work on, and why this is happening now. Being a young generation, should be able to understand this, why this temperature rises there, or how are you going to mitigate this, right? So that we will be seeing into the coming slides. What are the causes, or what are the you can say what are the solutions for those climate changes? Now, if you go to the impacts of the climate change on human health, now there are direct impacts as well as the indirect impacts. So direct impacts are related to the thermal stress, then increased deaths due to this increased floods, droughts, and storms. And indirect impacts are because of this food availability, the air quality, the water availability, and waterborne diseases. So I can say that there are two different impacts which affects our lives, daily livelihood. So this is the brief picture. You can see where there is which affects the human health as well. So you can see because of the severe weather, because of the air pollution, there are various diseases which are causing. So climate change is not only affecting the giving having these thermal stresses and all, but it directly affects your human health. So you can also have these changes in the vector ecology. You are having increasing allergies, respiratory, all these things. See, previously it was not so, because now the climate is so much changed, or you can say that it's really impacting our daily livelihood. You can also see water quality impacts, right? So because of those, the diseases happen. Cholera is there. Let's talk harmful algal blooms are there. Water and food supply impacts, malnutrition. So these all things, see, you will not be able to get it, but in the rural areas, you'll be able to see these cases. Environmental degradation, forced migration. So many of them shift to the displacement, you say. They change their location. Extreme heat conditions. So many of them, even they have health-related illness, or many of them also die on time because of these cardiovascular failures and all. So it's really a matter of concern, and this climate change, which has made a very, you can say, a bad impact on the human health. Now, if you see in impact in India, it's extreme heat. India is already experiencing a warming climate, right? So there are different, unlike under 4 degrees centigrade warming, the west coast and the southern area, they are projected to shift. So you can see that because of this climate change, you can see that urban areas are rapidly becoming heat islands, and they need to adopt these measures to counteract this effect. So when you see the impact, it is very this thing. Now, for suppose in Kerala also you can see that there was an increasing trend in post-monsoon rainfall. This is I took it from the site which was cited in this impact of climate change on food and plantation crops. This was cited by K. N. Krishna Kumar, and it was cited that rise in maximum rainfall was also noticed since last 49 years in Kerala. One of the most abundant rainfall receiving states of the country is likely to witness an increase in temperature by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius by the end of this century, they're saying. So it's a matter of concern, and this is the study which has been done. So increase in mean annual surface was 0.44 degrees centigrade. So it's not that it is if it is effect. These impacts are very much in our India. So what are the causes? Why this is happening? So you know that because of this, so many things have happened, right? So what are the basic causes of this climate change? So the causes are, you can say, they are rapid industrialization. You can see before this, there were like industrial revolution happened. There were a lot of emission of gases and all. So energy usage, agricultural practices, deforestation, consumer practices, livestock, transportation. Say transportation now, even we use CNG gases, petrol is there. So because of this also, your climate change is going to happen. It is going to affect the climate change, resource extraction, pollution. So these are the different causes of the climate change. And what are the effects? We can see rising temperature, rising sea levels, increase in extreme weather events, land degradation, loss of wildlife. So looking at this, we can see that there are many major effects. And even you can see that what are the social impacts. The social impacts, you can see displaced people, poverty, loss of livelihood, hunger, malnutrition, increased risk of diseases, global food and water shortages. So you can see that there are many social impacts on the climate change. So now our this thing is how are we going to mitigate these climate changes, and what is the role of the women, and what are the opportunities, and how these livelihoods are affected, that we will be seeing. So I hope till now I was able to make you clear that what exactly is the climate change, what are the impacts, and what are the causes, and what are the effects, right? More example if you want, I could share that in 2015 India was struck by a severe heat wave, if you are remembering. So it has caused the deaths of at least 2500 people in multiple regions of South Indian states, in Andhra and Telangana. So this was because of the severe heat wave. Again, there was a heat wave in 2016, and even there were many deaths in the state of Rajasthan. So why this is happening? So it is a matter of concern. How are we going to try to mitigate these? So these are the different causes and these are the effects. So you already know what is going to happen. We are not going to. It is not possible for us to eliminate all this, but we can try to reduce and we can try to bring the best. And how women will be able to reduce this impact, that we will be seeing. You can also see the changing rainfalls. Even there were floods because of heavy rainfalls were there. So droughts were there, right? So there were many impacts. Even you must be knowing about the glacier melt. Himalayan glaciers have been retreating over the past century. So there also you can see that the Indus and Brahmaputra, they can see you can see the increased flows in the spring when the snows are melting. So glacier melt. So these are the different impacts which are causing because of this climate change. You can also see that the crop production is reducing and major investments. See, previously there was water was free, but now you see that the water you need to buy the water, right? So why this is happening? So the major investment in water storage capacity also would be needed. So these are the different sectors, or like you can see even agriculture sector, food security. So these are all the sectors where you need to work on, right? So these are all affected because of this climate change. So you have different how does this affect? So you can say droughts are there, floods are there, which I was talking about. Many animals and plants are disappearing, melting ice, rising sea levels, less food, diseases, which we just discussed. So these are the different changes which are affecting us. Now, what is adaptation to the climate? So now what is happening is we are trying, what is actually the adaptation? So adaptive actions are those which are taken to reduce the severity and the impact of this negative climate related hazards. So you need to plan, right? You need to act and you need to observe and learn. So you need to have to adapt these changes. Adaptive actions are to be taken to reduce this. So you need to define this planning purposes. You need to access the climate impacts and vulnerabilities. You need to revise, or you can need to review these goals, strategies, and actions which you'll be taking. You need to implement this, and you need to observe, and you need to monitor this, what how the climate is changing, and you need to create a specific model and how it is affecting the ecosystem of our our region. So what you can do as the students, right? So as the students, you need to identify the area or where you can see that okay, this particular area is being facing some problems related to climate. So they are not getting proper water supply, they are not getting electricity, or they are not able to give a proper transportation. So you need to create, or you need to create give an innovative solution to them, so that they will so that the whatever the problems which are they facing, that can be eliminated. So those are called as you can say humanitarian activities. So it is like you need to understand and whatever the solution which you are giving, those will be sustainable. So it's not that you just give the solution, it should be sustainable. Sustainable, it is socio-economic and financially it should be friendly, right? When you say sustainable development goals, you have different sustainable development goals. You can identify one sustainable goal and you can work upon them, right? So when you see that no poverty, zero hunger, so these are all the different sustainable development goals which are there. You can pick anyone. So for that, for example, if you are working in a rural area, you try to understand from this particular 17 goals, which one is affecting the most, right? So if after understanding that, so suppose if they are having about the good health and well-being, so how are you going to you need to identify what type of support they need from your side. You can develop or you can build a project for them. And definitely, see, it's not that you just identify this. You can identify and you can propose it, and you can ask for the funding from different societies. So that is the major. See, it's not that you are understanding this. So you need to focus on the sustainable solution always. So for that, you are already having the side chapter. You also have humanitarian activity, these things. So when you work on them or work on the solution, you identify the problem, try to find the solution. And always it is not necessary that the solution has to be a model. You can also have build a training model. So you can train them, or you can give some training to those people, and they make them understand that how are you going to help by for this climate change, why, what is happening because of this, or you can make them understand that what are the impacts or what are the causes because of this, and how to reduce it. We will see the solutions also in the future for the slides. So your aim is to need for sustainable development, right? So sustainable, I already told you, these sustainable means you are not, whatever are the natural resources, what is happening right now, your over exploitation of natural resources is happening, and that's the reason, one of the reason for climate change, right? Then scarcity of resources. Food production needs to be double over next 40 years at a time. Just see the figure, when almost 23% of the world's agricultural land has been degraded. And water scarcity, nearly 2/3 of the world's population will be living in water stressed areas by 2025, it is predicted. So you need to develop the sustainable solutions for these particular changes, right? So there are 1 million species on track for extinction, decline of more than 60%. So there is a need for for the solution, and this is all related to the, this is making an impact on the climate change by increasing the temperature, atmospheric temperature, rising sea levels and all. So there is a need for sustainable development. So there are all see, if you must be knowing the sustainable development goals, so strengthen the resilience. Now what do you exactly mean by resilience? I will tell you. This resilience, climate change, you have understood. Now what is exactly strengthen the resilience? What are you going to do? So it is the ability to anticipate or prepare and respond to these hazardous events or disturbances which are related to climate. So it is your ability to anticipate or prepare and respond to these events, right? which events, hazardous events, trends, or disturbance which are related to climate. So you need to assess how this climate change will create new or alter current climate related risks and taking these steps to better cope with the risks. So what steps you will be taking to prevent this climate change? And adaptive capacity. Now you need to adapt to these climate changes. And how are you going to do that? So to climate related hazards and natural disasters, all countries. It's not only in India, but it's overall globally this climate change is happening. So they have been developed. So these are the different goals on which you can work upon, right? Integrate climate change measures into national. Okay, now it's not only that you will be working, it has to be incorporated in the national policies, strategies, and planning. The point which I was telling, you can train, right? So improve education, you create the awareness, you train the people, raising and human and institutional capacity on climate change mitigation, adaptation, impact reduction, and early warning. So here you can pick this one of the point from here and you can work on it, and you can you'll be able to put it in a project format and which will help to the betterment of the humanity, right? So these are the different goals on which you can work on. So these have been recently added. One more is implement the commitment undertaken by developed country parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is UNFCCC, to a goal of mobilizing 100 billion annually by 2020 from all the sources. So there is a green climate fund. You can go to this, you can just search on this thing. What is this green climate fund? There is a funding which is available through its capitalization as soon as possible. So how it is operating, you'll be able to understand here if you just click on this green climate fund. So here these are the goals which you will be, these are the you can say divided into different goals. And the one more is promote mechanism for raising capacity for effective climate change related planning and management in least developed countries. So you need to identify which countries are facing more climate change, and then you need to go, including focus on women, youth, and local and marginalized communities. So these are the different 5 sub goals in which you can work upon. You can create a, you can say, a small project or a small model in which you will be able to address these issues, and you need to develop a sustainable solution. So now we will see that are women important in addressing these challenges. So why it's not like this is like a social this thing, gender bias. Like it's not like only men are there. How women are important in addressing these challenges. So you can see why are women more vulnerable. What are the major challenges in enhancing this women's adaptive capacity? How to develop this gendered strategies? What role can women play? Do women face higher negative impacts? So you need to just you think on yourself, like, is it so that are women really important? And if you just go through these literatures and all, you will definitely feel that yes, there are many things because of which the women will be plays a vital role in addressing these challenges. So first you should need to understand that what is vulnerability. So vulnerability is the risk of being harmed as a result of particular hazard, right? So vulnerability to climate change. Now we are talking about the climate. So vulnerability to climate change varies along the lines of social difference, like race, class, age, gender, right? So this is because your social status is generally speaking a determinant of whether you are exposed to hazard and whether you are harmed by that exposure. So that is vulnerability. That is the risk of being harmed. That is your vulnerability. So how this vulnerability varies. So how it affects the climate change. You can see there is a crop failure, you have a fuel shortage, you have water scarcity, natural disaster, disease, displacement, conflicts. So these are all the impacts which is due to the climate change, right? So you can see that they are mostly affected. These are deadlier in the global south region. Conflict is most likely in the global south. Now, how I was talking about the women. So poor, like how women poverty climate changes. It's in the nexus. You can see that poverty has a women's face. See, 70% of the world's poor are women. Majority of 1.5 billion people living on $1 a day or less are women, right? A significant part of the agricultural labor force. Women do 2/3 of the world's work and produce half the world's food, yet earn only a tenth of the world's income and own less than 100 of the world's property. So these figures say that yes, we are like these figures say that women are important in addressing these challenges, right? So when you see here, you can see that women on average earn just about 50% of what men are earning. And here comes our role of women. We have different opportunities and how we will be able to mitigate this the climate changes, climate change effects on the impacts. And if you see, go to the rural areas, there are different roles, right? Gender division of labor. You can see there are fewer physical resources. There are less powerful social resources. You have fewer financial. So resources are very less if you see for these women. And hence they play a vital role in these changes. So when you see the gender gaps, if you see particularly to the women, you can see the poverty of 50% of 1.5 people billion living on, which I just spoke, are less are women. Water, you can see on average, women and children spend 8 or more hours per day collecting this water. So these are all the gaps which has been available in UN women source, right? Even you can see that if you go to the higher this thing governance, there you can see that women are 16.7% of government ministers and 19.5 are parliament and 99% head of state. So even if you see the percentage of the women is less in this governing bodies. Food. Women produce over 60% of food in some countries. Literacy. The two-thirds of the 774 million illiterate adults worldwide are women. So you are aim like what is your? These are the gender equalities, and you need to amplify these vulnerabilities. People who are already marginalized are more vulnerable to these negative effects. So gender inequality is a form of marginalization. So when you see this, you can understand that yes, women is playing a major role in this. How it will be effect, how useful if the women are incorporated in this governing bodies. So question might come like why are women affected differently? So you can see that on the household level, women are often left out of decision making and given fewer resources than men. Women have disproportionate burden, right, of vulnerable family members. Men and women express different preferences as to how household resources should be used to prepare for environmental hazards. Gendered equalities in institutions create barriers to adaptation. So you can see everywhere this gender bias is there, right? So what is women's response to the climate change, right? So if you see the responses, the adaptation actions which are undertaken by men and women are contextual, but do tend to vary because of the social status which they are having. So if you see, women's knowledge is often vital climate information. Because women are often primarily resource producers, they have often gathered in important environmental knowledge, which gives us knowledge of change in the climate. So they play a very important role. And climate change can also open up the new policy windows, offering new opportunities to the contest and challenge gender equalities. So this all depends upon the new policies, how the governing body, how the women will be able to enter these governing bodies. So, what are the remedial measures? If you see, then you can have crop diversification, more efficient water use, improved soil management. See, together with the development of drought-resistant crops, can help reduce some of the negative impacts. So, there are many measures, but you need to incorporate them. You need to train them, or you need to give some training to these people so that they understand that yes, because of this, there are some causes and there are the impacts. So we can at least try to reduce those. So if you see for the health, major health impacts in India, increasing malnutrition. So you need to make a survey where this effect is more, right? Heat waves are there. So you need to give train them, or you need to make them understand what is happening. So you can have health systems will need to be, so you can generate an health system which will be strengthened in identified hotspots. You can build the codes which will need to be strictly enforced, and urban planning will need to prepare for climate related disasters. You can also have improvements in meteorological systems, from weather forecasting. So now you have artificial intelligence, machine learning, so many so much technology has been developed. So you can try to incorporate these into the different into the climate change, and then you can develop a model, develop a project for this, and try to implement this in the rural areas. So what needs to be done? Putting health at the heart of climate change agenda, strengthening public health systems. Now you must have seen that electrical vehicles are coming into market. So why this? Because now this for fossil fuels, gases, emissions, and all, the transportation has to be taken care of. So EVs have been coming in the market. Because of that, greenhouse gas emission is reduced. Choosing healthy paths to a low carbon future, collaborative healthcare, responsive healthcare. So you can see this in WHO, the World Health Organization. So these things needs to be done at present. Public education, very important, including in healthcare settings. Preventive programs you can have, provision of healthcare, surveillance of diseases, health sector workforce training. So these few things can be done from your end. Education and mass media campaigns. You can have these campaigns going on. Even you can see that in between there was a like which types of vehicles which you will be using. There was a they organizing different events, sports events, so that to make them understand, okay, instead of using the transportation, you can use cycle, or you can use some which are not harmful to the environment. So you can have such campaigns, you can have some such type of programs which will at least create that motivation to the people. Creating of awareness and public understanding globally and locally. Advocacy. You can also have intersectoral partnership from the local to international level. If you are going to the water, improve water catchments in water deprived regions. Disaster preparedness. Yes, this is very important, disaster preparedness. So you should be able, so there are many programs where they have disaster management training given to the people. Enhanced urban planning, green space, green cities, smart cities, you must be knowing. So these are all the things which you can do on these things. And you can see that there are penalties for violations of the laws regarding environment protection. So that must be imposed according to the income status of the person. So these are the different ways where you can have. So are negative impacts of CC greater for women, and why? So if you see that, yes, we just now seen that there are different impacts, alternative ways to feed the family, long hours to collect the water, higher diseases, more caring work, reduced time for education, income generating activities, water scarcity, male out migration, take on men's role but limited resources. We don't have enough resources. So that is the reason these are the negative impacts of this climate change, which is greater for the women. So, what is the role of women in addressing these challenges? So, both have different, distinct responsibilities, but women have specialized knowledge on this environment and capacity to adapt this. And they are the best ones who can develop these innovative strategies, have diverse adaptation and coping strategies and mechanisms. Pilot studies highlight that responses and coping strategies have a very clear sense of what is needed to adapt better to CC, that is climate change. So the women can play a vital role in addressing these challenges because they have that specified knowledge, because they are the ones who are involved in this environmental activities. There are different strategic entry points for gender, meaningful participation of women in design and implementation, planning and monitoring support from top, and implementation support. So it has the women's has to be incorporated. So it's not only that the men's are will be able to design those strategies, but it should be a gender biased. So it's not like only men are playing this thing in the governing bodies, but even women should be able to contribute to this strategies. Capacity building. Now, what is actually the capacity building? So you need to empower women as a part of building community, right? You investing in women means investing in children, right? So you need to build on existing strategies and incorporate lessons which are learned. So capacity building program means it is you need to identify what is the problem, and you need to give the solution to that for that particular problem in a sustainable way. So that is a capacity building problem. So it's not, and that solution has to be accepted by everyone, by all the stakeholders. So women at forefront, you can see that 85% of the female leaders are making changes in their daily habits to counteract this climate catastrophe. 80% of those displayed by climate change are women. So gender equality is a prerequisite for achieving sustainable development and effectively managing the challenges of the climate change. So it is seen that I took it from this slide. So you can see that 1% increase in women's participation in company management would lead to 0.5% decrease in carbon emissions. So here it plays a vital role, like how you will be able to come at the forefront and you'll be able to fight against this climate change. Uh, Annual energy consumption in male only household is higher than female, right? So you can say that how we will be able to address these challenges. So coming to the case study, there is one in at the year 2015 household survey in Malwa. You can see women's work, including collecting water and firewood. See, these are the projects which were done. This was the case study where climate change is increasing water scarcity and reducing forest cover, forcing women to travel farther to acquire water and fuel. So this increases women's labor time and physical effort and also exposes them to gender biased violence. So these studies, so it's not that it is new, this climate change. It has been started from the earlier years and now it is going to be worse. So now it is the correct time where you need to address this issue, right? So this was in the year 2015. This was in 2011, the study of brought in rural communities in Darling Basin in Australia. So rural men tend to bear the burden of increasingly fraught on farm work, leading to social isolations. And rural women tend to take on increased work outside the home, increasing both stress and autonomy. So you can see that there are the rural women. So it's not only men, but the women are also a part of this. Disruption of gender inequalities can cause men to experience crisis of masculinity as environmental hardship, undermines their ability to be the breadwinners. So which are the areas or there are various countries where these impacts can be seen. So I'll tell you few of the. So you need to identify which areas you need to work on. So it is being seen that the countries which are mostly impacted by climate change are Philippines, Myanmar, Pakistan, and Rico and Haiti. So you need to identify which regions or which countries are most impacted, and you need to work upon them, and you need to find out that where is the highest risk and during which period. So that study is very important, and then only you'll be able to mitigate all those these things. So you can see that 3 out of 4 people with low incomes, they rely on agriculture and natural resources to survive. So there are jobs which are in agriculture, fisheries, forestry, are highly reliant on predictable weather patterns. So you need to address this. Low income towns tend to be located in geographically at risky areas. Or another example, I can say that poor or non-existing disaster infrastructure in many lower income areas undermines this people's ability to recover after disasters. So there are different, the most impacted by the climate changes. The racial minorities, indigenous people, and women already struggle to receive this equal resources. So these are more likely to rely on the natural environment for their livelihoods and have limited access to these resources due to discrimination. So 70% of the people with low incomes around the world are women. And because these resource-dependent tasks such as gathering or sourcing fuel tend to fall on women, so they'll be directly disrupted by the onset of the climate changes effects. So it is our duty to be a part of the governing body and try to train the people or try to make them understand how these impacts are there and how are you able to minimize those. You can also see that women are underrepresented in climate change decisions. So this is women are underrepresented in, for example, you can say that UNFCCC. This includes Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. So women are minimally present on the boards of major energy companies. So here you can see, and if you try to promote them or you try to have that their representative in these decisions, there will be a drastic change. So I would just like to give a recap. Like climate change is a social process that affects men and women unequally due to social hierarchies of power that manifest in gender inequalities. Women who are already marginalized in most societies are disproportionately harmed by environmental hazards, including this climate change. Women may bear less responsibility for greenhouse gas emissions. Women are less able to adapt to climate change and are underrepresented in the decision making under around this climate change. And women's intersectional. So your responses to this climate change can reinforce existing gender inequalities or disrupt them. So together, what we can do is let's battle the climate change together, right? So thank you. If you have any queries, you can just ask me.
Thank you, ma'am, for your enlightening presentation.
Yeah,
We
I think
appreciate
so.
your valuable insights and expertise on this topic.
Yeah, it was bit I can say theoretical, not theoretical, I can say some examples and all, but I hope you must have got the gist of what I wanted to say. Yeah, any questions, please let me know. Yeah, Sahala has raised her hand. You can unmute and ask, or you can let me know what any doubts. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, any doubts or any, I can see Sala's hand raised. If she wants to unmute and speak, please feel free to ask. Okay, thank you then.
Okay,
If you have
now
any
let me
queries, you
invite.
can contact me. Yeah.
Now let me invite Lakshmi for the vote of thanks.
Good evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude for the inspiring session we have just had the privilege to listen to. So, our speaker's words, Rushali ma'am, have not only enlightened us but also left us with much to reflect upon. We extend our sincere thanks to Rushali Thakkar for sharing their valuable insights and knowledge with us today. We would also like to express our gratitude to all the attendees who made this event a success. Your presence and engagement are greatly appreciated. Once again, thank you, Rushali ma'am, for your captivating speech. It has been an enlightening experience for all of us. Your words will undoubtedly resonate with us for a long time to come. So, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Lakshmi.
much.
Now let's have a photo session. For that, I would like to request everyone to turn on your cameras for the photo session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all. Now you can leave the session.